Hello, my name is Fiona Brady and I'm the Head of Education with Down Syndrome Ireland. And this is a presentation on choosing a primary school. This is part one of a two-part presentation and my colleague Nicola Hart will be recording part two of the Choosing a Primary School presentation in due course. First of all, we need to look at making the choice. Education is the process that enables each child to achieve his or her potential. So therefore, making the correct choice of school is very, very important for the child to achieve his or her potential. There's a very broad continuum of SEN. Even within Down syndrome itself, there is a very, very wide range of abilities and strengths and needs. So it follows then that there should be a wide range of options available to provide for all of those needs. So parents need to know what these options are. They need to be available and they need to be known to parents so that they can make the best choice in relation to the education of their child with SEN. For many years, there have been reports and guidelines and legislation dealing with the whole area of special educational needs, going back as far as 1993 with the CERC report, and right up to the present day where we have department circulars on various aspects. The most important piece of legislation we have in the whole area of special educational needs is the EPSN Act, the Education of Persons with Special Educational Needs Act, which was enacted in the Republic of Ireland in 2004. Section 2 of this Act makes provision for children with special educational needs to be included in mainstream schools. It is also an objective of the Act that these children would leave schools with the skills necessary to participate in an inclusive way in society and to live independent and fulfilled lives. While it would be wonderful if both of these aspirations could be satisfied, we are very, very well aware that this is not always the case. Sometimes a child with special educational needs with Down syndrome will require all the supports available in a special school to prepare him or her as a responsible, independent, capable and reasonably confident adult. So you can see why choosing a school for your child with special educational needs is a very important decision. I would love to be able to provide a list of questions or boxes to tick that would give you an absolute indication as to which school you should pick. But such a list does not exist. There are no absolute indicators or criteria that, on their own, can be used to determine exactly where a child should be placed. The more information parents have about the range of provision and supports available, the better their choice is likely to be. So, as parents, you need to be able to choose the best education for your child. And all of the alternatives need to be very carefully weighed up before you decide what is in the best interest of the child. And at primary level, this may be mainstream, special class or unit, or a special school. So we make the decision when we choose a school. Are we going to a mainstream setting or are we going to look at a special setting? There are three main types of provision to meet the range of educational needs found among students in primary school. They are mainstream classes, special classes within a mainstream school, or special schools. And it is important for you as a parent to visit all the school placements that are on offer. Try and get a feel for all of the schools that would be feasible for you to enrol your child. Today, the majority of children with special educational needs, and indeed the majority of children with Down syndrome, they now attend their local primary mainstream school. However, there are a number of parents whose children have more severe or maybe more complex needs who may have to consider whether their child might make better progress in a special setting or in a mainstream setting. You might have to consider the two options and weigh up the pros and cons of each, taking the best interest of your child as your starting point. So looking first at mainstream schools. So firstly, let's have a look at the supports that will be available for your child in mainstream schools. The class teacher can adapt the curriculum to meet the students' learning needs. And it's very important to stress here that the class teacher is the teacher that has ultimate responsibility for your child. It's not the resource teacher, it's not the learning support teacher, it's not the SNA, it's the class teacher. So because of this responsibility, the class teacher can develop a plan to guide a student's progress over time. Some schools call this the school support plan, some schools still call this the IEP, but regardless of what it's called, it is the role and the responsibility of the class teacher to develop this plan. All primary schools have either a learning support or a resource teacher to complement the work of the class teacher, to assist the class teacher in carrying out the decisions made in the learning plan. Sometimes today they're called SETs, special education teachers, but they support the class teacher in the work they're doing with the child. All primary schools can apply to the NCSE as well for additional resource teaching support for students with special educational needs, and that is done obviously before the child enrolls in the school. Similarly, schools can apply to the NCSE for a special needs assistant for students who may have significant care needs arising from a disability. And let me stress here that an SNA is appointed for care needs, not for teaching duties, not for anything else, for care needs. And some years ago, children were allocated an SNA. Now that has changed. It's the school is allocated a number of SNAs, and then it is up to the school to decide what child gets what SNA. And very few children now have access to an SNA on their own. You usually have what's called access to an SNA because in many instances, particularly if there's more than one child in the school or more than one child in the classroom with a disability, they will be sharing that SNA. In addition, schools can apply for grants to buy essential specialist equipment, so perhaps technological support, additional iPads, a surround system for hearing disabilities and so forth. So all of this is applied for by the school, not by the parent, by the school to the NCSE. When we move on then to look at the special schools, they support students that have more severe or more complex learning and educational needs. And it would be in cases where a full-time mainstream placement would not be in the student's best interest. These children might find the demands of a mainstream school very difficult, or they may have complex learning or other difficulties that require smaller classes to ensure that they make the best progress they can. special schools tend to have fewer students, and they support fewer students then in smaller class sizes. A special school, for example, for students with moderate learning disabilities has one teacher for every 8 students. And remember, in that classroom as well, there might be 2, maybe 3 SNAs, depending on the needs of the individual children in the classroom. And the third option we have is the special class or special unit in a mainstream. These again have lower pupil-teacher ratios than the mainstream classes. So they're in the mainstream school, but they have fewer students. It's a flexible arrangement that may change as the student learning develops. For example, your child might start out their education in a special class, but they might just move out of that special class and move fully into the mainstream as they go up through the school. But the most important thing to stress here is that students in special classes should also be given opportunities to be included in mainstream classes for some activities or subjects every day. It's not a case of them going into the special class in the morning and coming out of it in the afternoon. They should be mixing and integrating with the mainstream aspect of the school on a daily basis as well. So to summarise then, supports in a special setting, be they a special class or a full special school. It's a supportive learning environment for children with more severe or more complex needs. They have smaller class sizes than mainstream classes, and they have additional care supports for students with significant care needs arising from a disability. And they may have increased assistive technology opportunities available. So the title of this slide here is Making an Informed Choice. And of course, it is vitally important that parents make an informed choice, that you arm yourselves with as much information as possible before you make your choice. And you make the final decision on where your child goes to school. And you must be satisfied to the best of your ability and have the knowledge that, as far as you think, the placement will result in a good outcome for the child. Nobody knows what lies ahead. But from your feelings about the school and from meeting the staff, you feel that this will be the place where your child will be best. Now, you don't have to make this decision on your own without assistance and support from other people. There are a number of people who can advise you on the decision-making process. For example, the principal of the school, the teachers in the school, maybe an EP psychologist, the CNO, your child's teachers from his preschool, private psychologists or HSE psychologists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, psychiatrists, medical doctors, and so on. Any other professional that has any contact or a relationship with your child. It would be so important to talk to them and to chat to them about the process and get their opinion on what they think would be the best way for your child to go forward. On this slide then, there are some questions here that, it's important that you arm yourself with the information you need. And on this slide, there are a list of questions, and on the next 3 slides actually, there are a list of questions that you need to ask yourself and find what the answer to these questions are. And that will help you in your decision-making process as well. For example, the first question there, do you feel comfortable and welcome in the school? If you get the sense from the day you go to visit the school, if you feel uncomfortable and you get a distinct sense that you are very unwelcome in the school, well then I certainly would not see that as a very positive indication for that school. Do the staff appear interested in you and your child? The fourth question down to there is very important. How much knowledge or experience does the staff have with Down syndrome? Now, I don't have any problem with teachers that do not know or have never taught a child with Down syndrome. We were all at the stage of our teaching at one time or another where we did not have the experience of teaching a child with Down syndrome. But the important thing about it is if they have very little experience or if they have no experience, do they seem willing to learn? And going on down through the questions there, what provision does the school make for the pupils with special educational needs? What's the school's plan? Another important consideration is the size of the school. What's the pupil-teacher ratio? How many pupils per teacher are there? Are there multi-level classes? Many rural schools would have multi-level classes, maybe junior infants and senior infants together, or if it's a two-teacher school, they will have junior, senior, first and second together. How is the school going to communicate with parents? And this is something that comes up over and over again, that parents feel they get little or no communication from the school, and that any communication they get usually is just negative. It's only when there's something wrong that they get a communication from the school. What kind of facilities and resources does the school have? Have they a good hall? Is there good sports equipment? Have the children opportunities to use computers? Are the play areas nicely developed? And again, just reverting back to the negativity all the time, does the school emphasise the child's strengths and celebrate small successes or diversities or individual differences? Or is it just constant commentary and a rundown on the negative aspects, the problems there are? How is the learning support or the resource teaching or the special education teaching organised in the school? Is it small group or individual withdrawal? Or is it extra support within the regular classroom? And certainly, while extra support in the regular classroom is very beneficial and is to be recommended, certainly children with Down syndrome do benefit from some one-to-one support in the week. And two other questions there that are important. If you're considering a special school, and this would be down to the parents, it's nothing really whatsoever to do with the school, but at the same time it's worth considering. Where will your child meet and engage with typically developing peers? What arrangements are going to be there after school? What opportunities are there? Will they go to the local scouts or guides? Will they play football? Or similarly, if you're considering a mainstream school, where will your child meet and engage with other children with Down syndrome? Two important questions. And I suppose the last question would be just the pivot of the whole idea of inclusion. If the school is a mainstream school, how much will your child be actually and genuinely included? And that is so important, because we don't want a scenario where your child is simply a name on the roll in the school, and that's as far as inclusion goes. The child then is treated separately to their peers all the time, and that's not inclusion. And the benefits of being in a mainstream school for that situation, well, they're not very big. There are a number of useful resources, and these are all available as free downloads. You have an information booklet for parents from the NCSE. You have the booklet Choosing a School, a guide for parents and guardians of children. And you have a booklet Starting School, guidelines for parents and guardians of children with special educational needs. These are all excellent publications, and you can download all of these free from the NCSE website. I'll give you the website address at the end. Similarly, on the Down Syndrome Ireland website, we have a booklet called Supporting Children with Down Syndrome in Primary School. That would be a mainstream school. And we also have a booklet Supporting Students with Down Syndrome in Special Schools. And both of these are available as a free download from the Down Syndrome Ireland website. And as I indicated already, this is the website for the NCSE, or the National Council for Special Education, www.ncse.ie, and they have a large number of resources available for a free download. And you see also there a link to the Down Syndrome Ireland website that will bring you directly to the downloads, the booklets that I've just pointed out to you. It will also show you a section called Online Education Seminars, and we have a number of webinars and seminars on the website that will be of very much use to you, and indeed use for your school. And this particular webinar will be joining those shortly. And finally, just to give you some contact details, Nicola Hart is the head of member support in Down Syndrome Ireland, and Nicola is going to be doing part 2 of the Choosing a Primary School webinar, and it will also be available on the website in due course. And Nicola can be contacted on nicola@downsyndrome.ie. Claire Power is our early intervention specialist, so if you have any queries or you'd like more information on looking at moving from the preschool to the primary school and helping you maybe to see what way the preschool can assist you in making your decision, please contact Claire on claire@downsyndrome.ie. And my email address, the last one there, fidalma@downsyndrome.ie, and please feel free to email me at any stage. And finally, just you see there, that's the website for Down Syndrome Ireland, www.downsyndrome.ie. So thank you very much for joining this seminar, this short webinar, and please do check out our website for the other supports that I have mentioned. Thank you. Bye-bye.